Hiya folks, welcome to the next edition of Serverless Craic with myself, Dave Anderson, author and contributor to Serverless Edge and technical fellow with Bizarre Voice.
Hi everyone, Mark McCann, architect at Globalization Partners and author and contributor at the Serverless Edge.
Hi, O'Reilly, architect with Globalization Partners, contributor with Serverless Edge. Hello.
Good stuff. I know it's World Cup fever, but it's also reInvent fever. AWS are having their annual conference, reInvent, soon, today, at the minute. I'll be heading over. You two gentlemen will not be. You're being sensible. I am being foolish.
We'll do more learning watching the videos, Dave. You'll just do more walking.
I'll just be walking around
Lots
hallways.
of steps.
Missing people, talking to people on Twitter in the same city, but not actually meet them in person. But it's a good week. It's like I say, it's usually the week after Thanksgiving. Traditionally, the Monday is pretty open. The CEO will do a keynote on Tuesday, Adam Spelsky. Swami will do a keynote on Wednesday on ML, and then Werner will do a keynote on Thursday. That's the kind of engineer techie one. And there'll be loads of announcements, those 3 keynotes, and then there'll be loads of breakout talks. I think there's probably 30 or 40,000 people going, and there's probably about 8 hotels. It is absolutely insane. So I suppose that we figured we would just chat about what would we like to see from AWS. It's a lot of the internal teams work towards reInvent for the big announcements. Sometimes they have some announcements beforehand, but the big ones will be on stage. So what would you like to see?
Yeah, I think, especially for our particular context, an increased enhancement and evolution of serverless development capabilities and the ecosystem in general, right? So more serverless services coming online, so things that aren't serverless, maybe iterating to be more serverless, and just a continuation of that ecosystem. I know it's still like a reasonably high cognitive burden adopting serverless for teams, so removing some of the barriers to that adoption, right, and making it a bit easier for teams to get started and developers to get started. And we're seeing a lot of this already. Like the developer advocates are doing a great job in educating people on this, and serverless land, the patterns, the workflows, all that stuff's improving massively. But I think a continuation of that, and there's always something they put into the hat. There's always some new big serverless thing that they announce. So it'll be good to see what that is.
It's really the serverless developer kind of environment, helping service developers. I know there's a bunch of things that people are almost afraid of. Observability was the big thing, and deployment patterns and some of the frameworks making it a bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see, actually. I know they're putting a wee bit into CloudWatch in the last sort of while with like the RUM and now the performance, and and that's all coming on. That's definitely looking a wee bit more like a product that you would leverage. And serverless development for me, things like private API gateways, I'd love to see something. I always kind of feel like, okay, well, private API gateways are interesting, but they could be a wee bit more developer friendly, I think, in terms of setting up and naming and managing. So it'll be interesting to see what they do around the whole API gateway service, and be interested to see if there's anything there coming out.
It's almost like the edge around the environment needs a wee bit tightened up. You know what I mean? Because the API gateways, and as well as data, I don't think they've nailed some of the data options yet. They've been trying, but there's still feel like they're not quite there yet.
Yeah, and you're seeing a lot more enhancements around some of the eventing capabilities, right? There's that SNS filtering. I think there's some SQS and in the X-ray as well came through there. So again, these are all just things that just make that serverless experience a bit more rich and a bit more all-encompassing, right?
Yeah. What do you call that feature? Was that the chaining of the traces through the different tools? Yeah. So then probably leads on to probably developer enablement, because I think there's one thing just helping people in serverless build better, but then there's probably another thing around just general developer enablement. And one of the trends that I suppose AWS were doing for the last couple of years is this idea of the guru, code guru and DevOps guru, and even GitHub are doing it with GitHub Pilot and stuff. The idea that I'm not sure if I buy that. There was a tweet a few days ago, but a guy said that AI will change coding because AI will write all the code for you. Like the whole code is a liability mindset. That's not the approach we want to take.
No.
Yeah. So the one where Gritty Booch wasn't this.
Gritty Booch
think it was going to happen.
quite rightly so.
Yeah. I mean, you can see it looks pretty cool, you know, and I think there's all the legalities around how they actually train those models and the,
Yeah,
you know, the
some guys
copyright
taking
infringements and things. And
yeah. But the thing is,
yeah,
as you well know, the hard thing about building something, it's not typing in the code.
No,
yeah,
don't think.
no, it's not.
Yeah, I think that developer enablement and you know time to value. Can you get a developer up and running with a productive IDE, ideally in the cloud somewhere, and can they start delivering value really rapidly? Right, and we're seeing steps around that. We're seeing the cloud IDE starting to emerge a bit more. They're maturing a bit more. So I want to see what the AWS does around their Cloud9 offering, some of their just this not all together, so that you can go from idea to something deployed and running within minutes, right? And you can recreate that. So you can see the building blocks are starting to be put in place. I want to see where that goes next. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that works.
I think I'm still quite visual when I think about these things. Like, so I think the visualization of some of those serverless and cloud systems is always problematic.
Yeah.
As you'll well remember, many years ago, I was always banging on about drawing proper diagrams and stuff. It feels like we've evolved from having the architecture diagram being a static thing, but I don't think it's been well replaced.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I think beyond developer enablement, once the developers are up and running, we have been big advocates for well architected, and we have been sort of banging the drum for teams delivering well architected solutions. And over the last year, we've seen lots of good announcements around well architected capabilities and systems and services coming online within AWS. So I want to see the continued evolution of that and more well architected sort of thinking and characteristics being baked into everything AWS are doing. So all the way from the developer advocates to the patterns to the code samples, we really should be thinking about, well, is that a well architected sample? Is that a well architected solution that they're describing in their blog posts and in their serverless LAN patterns, all that sort of stuff. So it's really sort of answers that question. Could you take it to a higher environment? Could you take it to production? Some of there's a tricky line to walk there, but you don't want to overburden people with especially if they're getting started around some of these things. But I think we'll see more of that.
Yeah, I think it's more tooling supporting well architected. Sorry, Dave. Or well architected, just integrated more into say the deployment and run kind of phases of cloud.
I think there's two parts of it. I think that well architected itself needs to be better known. There needs to be more understanding of this. For me, there's an awful lot of people still don't know what well architected means. I think there's still work to people understand what well architected is and what it isn't, and have it present in the tools and not a separate thing that you need to go and do. It should be just there in your job. And then I think there's a second thing, which is the idea of primitives, which is maybe going a bit left field. I think some of the basic primitives, I think there's a new level of not just something like a database, something more abstract, like a pattern that you see. Like, I mean, the developer advocates are great at this with serverless land. It'd be great to see some consistency in some of those higher level primitives, and it may be something that Jeremy Daly's doing with his new company Amped, with the infrastructure for code. So I think there are some ideas around this. So I'd love to see that kind of this idea of almost like where's Gregor Hulp's new sort of enterprise language, pattern language. So I think there's probably another.
I think a lot of it's about fast feedback, and dare I say it, the flywheel, right? Can we get more feedback faster on our well architected status? Can the accounts almost tell us how well architected our workloads are within that account? Can the pipelines tell us how well architected the change that we just made is? Can our IDEs tell us how well architected we are? Seeing all that sort of stitched together in a really compelling way with fast feedback for the developers will really help raise the bar, I guess, on what developers are going to be delivering into production in a really fast way. So I want to see that all starting to come out, hopefully, in reInvent this week, next week.
That's effectively platform heuristics, because I remember like back in the days of IBM, back in the mainframe days, I mean, it was such a mature platform and they knew it so well that they started making heuristics. When you start to analyze your code or whatever, it would be a heuristic saying, I think this might be wrong. and it was things you're like, oh, that's right, and then I think this might be wrong. Here's what you need to do to fix it. You know what I mean? And then you get to the point where it's saying, I've just fixed this for you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see some of these elements emerge already. Right? They've got security hub, they've got reliability hub, they've got the fault injection simulator. It's more just stitching those all together. It's almost like factory mode for your workloads and your accounts. Tell me where I'm not well architected and tell me how to fix it. Right. That's the sort of guidance you want to see.
I guess there's a wee bit of philosophy that sort of gets into that too. You know what I mean? Like, so obviously well architected is a set of opinions, and you know, but I do feel like there could be a lot more done there to facilitate people, you know, like adopting those opinions or testing, you know, that we adhere or configured for that thing. And I like that comparison to the heuristics, you know, just, you know, here's a set of rules. And we do apply it with things like CF and NAG, or, you know, those tools that validate like CloudFormation or the YAMLs, you know. So I think there is a need for it, there's a demand for it. So yeah, but be interested to see if anything comes up. I don't know.
Yeah, I think as well. I mean, you say they are opinions, but they're also experience from a lot of very talented architects working with a lot of customers. So they are opinions, but they're good opinions.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably another extension to that. As we're starting to enable the developer, I'm seeing a lot of really good industry examples with the new tools being launched to say, here's a new feature and here's it applied to a particular industry. I think that's nice. It's less abstract. I'd like to see more of that as well.
Yeah, it helps people. It reduces a bit of that cognitive burden of teams going, that sounds really cool, but I can't see how we can apply it to our domain. So the more industry specific examples they see, it removes that fear factor of, hey, that'll never work in the insurance industry. Oh, well, there's an example that you can just point to and say, hey, this is one. Look, I think the most recent one was the SNS filtering, was the auto insurance or property insurance sort of filtering of some of the messages in the SNS topic. So that's great because it just removes another one of those barriers of adoption, right? If you see an industry specific example that's tailored to your particular domain, right?
Exactly. Or you've just spent the last 4 years building something, you go, ta-da, here you go. It's good fun. And then finally, I suppose the sustainability is a topic close to your heart. I haven't heard too much about this last while. I know Adrian's moved on from AWS now, like, so Adrian Cockcroft, and he's still lots of really good content if you follow him on Twitter. But nice to see them continuing that journey, which I assume they will, like, but I'm not quite sure. I think there's probably just more maturity in how they measure and how they present and how they analyze your workloads and stuff.
Yeah, I think more fine-grained analysis of the carbon scores would be useful. And again, when teams are designing and building their workloads, getting faster feedback on, hey, if you use this particular service, it's going to cost you this much in carbon. You know, and we were starting to do this a lot with teams when we're doing well-architected reviews, when we're doing the score process. Right, cost is a factor, but we want to start introducing your carbon score as a factor. And if they have better, more granular tools, then we can have a better conversation about that. So hopefully there's something in all that. We don't know, but that'll be the hope.
Yeah, even moving some of their data centers, or, you know, maybe a bit more greener.
Yeah.
So yeah,
exactly.
Good to see what's happening.
So then left field. What's the wacky stuff? Anything wacky just to close off? I'll tell you what I'd love to see a bit of work around API management and API gateways. I think there's a whole bunch of work that they could do there. I don't know what it is like, but it just feels like there's more to do there.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier, but I think the factory mode for your accounts, how well architected are you, would be really good. Instead of us having to do the reviews and do it manually, it just tells us, right? I think we're a while off that, but I could be surprised.
Yeah, definitely plus one on the gateways. I kind of feel like you know, it's due kind of just a you know, an uplift, or, you know, like an enhancement there. I could definitely see a lot of benefit coming in with that. The one, I don't know, like documentation, you know, do you think they'll anything there, you know, in terms of how you can consume information about services and that sort of thing? I know we've got lots of patterns and lots of advocacy, and there's lots more content coming out, you know. I don't know. I
don't know. Like, maybe left field could be something like you were saying, the explosion of services in the console now, right? Is there going to be almost a cut down version just for your
a layer?
Yeah. Just removes a lot of noise to signal ratio there that you don't need to deal with. So maybe there's something around that.
A light.
drop stuff out of it. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Just give me a serverless console.
Just give me the serverless console. Just ditch everything else, right?
Don't be annoying my head. Give me what matters.
Yeah.
Very good. And the cost is another thing that there's always ideas around cost kicking around. I still think FinOps is a massive growth area, and it's still
Yeah.
quite a lot of really good tools out in the market. But yeah,
The only other one I think in there was identity. You know, Amazon, maybe it'd be interesting to see if anything comes out with Cognito or
nice simple one.
a nice simple one around
Yeah, it's been
identity.
I think cross-region and multi-region, that sort of like Cognito was always for teams, right? So they could solve some of those things that could be even more compelling than it already is.
Very good, very good. So what's the crack then? I'll be walking like a lunatic next week and kind of dancing around the whole of Las Vegas. So it's hard work. It's not fun. Hard work.
And you brought some of the books, Dave, right?
Yep, I'll bring some books across as well, so that should be fun. So there we go. So have a wee look at the blog on the serverlessedge.com and follow us on Twitter at serverlessedge and have a look at our YouTube channel. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.